So let me tell you something. This is going to be the most important segment on this program. And this is going to be a something that is going to give 95% of our listening audience out there a key takeaway, a key to do, if you will, that is going to be more and more important going forward. So it's obviously mid-March. We're going to talk a little bit about taxes here in the rest of the program. And specifically, we're going to talk about some of the specific taxes that can apply on your investments and to make sure that you are paying the right amount on them and observing the proper timing, or at least getting details on the proper timing of those investment transactions, because that's going to determine whether you pay less taxes or you have to pay more. So we're going to hit that. But before we get to that, I really want to talk about how to protect yourself from tax identity theft, which is a growing issue thanks to the continued improvement in artificial intelligence and the expansion of the dark web and all of those kinds of things. What's shocking about this ability to prevent tax identity theft is that only less than 5% of Americans, so 95 have not completed the process with the IRS to be able to make it happen, to give that level of protection to themselves. Otherwise, they might very well fall part of the increasing number of people who have tax identity theft. So if you've never heard of it, if you've never run into it, I assure you it happens every tax season. We run into several tax returns that wind up getting bounced when we file them. And so here's kind of what has happened in the background. So for tax identity theft to occur, what happens is a criminal, fraudster, whatever you want to call them, uses a real person's information, right, such as their date of birth, social security number, probably pulled it off of the dark web, and they use that and they file a totally fake tax return in that person's name. Now, the fake return will then include a completely made up refund that typically goes into the fraudster's bank account. Then, when the real taxpayer files their actual return with the IRS, guess what happens? The computers reject it because we already processed this other return with your name and social security number and all of that. And here's the kicker. Here's the thing that will just, kind of burn you on this thing. So you're the victim, okay, the real filer, right? You're the victim of this. But it's on you to resolve the problem when it happens by providing affidavits proving that you're you, providing affidavits, submitting, identifying information, having to file paper returns, not able to file electronically anymore, not even able to have direct deposit on your refund, so you're having to wait for that, for check coming in the mail. Unbelievable, right? I mean, couple that with the resolution process. So when one of these kind of tax identity theft fraudulent returns comes through, there's resolution system. Well, the process for that is getting longer because the number is increasing. At the end of 2024, the IRS had about 500,000 cases involving tax ID theft victims, and so that's 500,000. That's a lot. Okay, and over the course of the past 4 years, the average time to finish or fully resolve those cases rose from 4 months to 22 months, so nearly 2 years. So that's like 2 tax seasons in order to get this resolved. And in case you haven't realized, the world certainly isn't getting safer. Chances are your data isn't getting safer from personal attack anyway. So how do you attack this type of fraud? How do you fight this? The IRS has a specific plan of action, and we wanted to go over that with you today. They encourage taxpayers to apply for a 6-digit IP PIN, which stands for your Identity Protection Personal Identification Number. For taxpayers who have them, the IRS computer rejects returns without that proper IP PIN on the tax return. But yet, less than 5% of Americans have applied for one. And folks, it's a pretty simple fix to prevent you from becoming a victim and having that burden of proof on you to actually prove that you are you. Once you get one, it's automatic. Every year you kind of get a new one each year in your online IRS account. So how do you get one, right? So, I mean, yes, there is obviously a process. It's not like you just pick up the phone or hit a button and poof, you've got one. There is definitely a process on this that is a little bit time consuming. So let's walk through that. So first, you got to prove that you're you. So you got to prove your identity, and the IRS uses a third-party website called ID.me. So you go to that website, and you submit your name, address, photo of driver's license, things like that. Basically the same kind of stuff I just submitted for the beneficial ownership information report that I did for Nelson Financial Planning. That's a topic, obviously, if you follow the program on a regular basis. We've been updating you again. All of that BOI reporting is under sort of still in suspension now. So you don't need to worry about that, but it's that kind of stuff that you have to provide. So once you submit all of that information to ID.me, then you're going to be able to ask the IRS to give you a IP PIN number through your online account with them, and then it gets auto-generated there. So let me just kind of break that down a little bit. So you have to set up online accounts with both the IRS and ID.me, and you're going to need both of them because they're sort of talking to each other, right? ID.me proves who you are. The IRS login is how you actually obtain your PIN number. So, and that's kind of the toughest part of it. Setting up the accounts. Once you get through that, then it's pretty simple because it sort of automatically generates. So in preparing for today's show, I said to myself, well, if I'm going to recommend this as a plan of action for people, well, maybe I should do it myself. And so I decided to go online and get one. The process itself was relatively simple. But again, I already had an online account with ID.me and IRS.gov. So I was able to kind of go through it. So that didn't have that kind of hassle. But I remember when we did set that stuff up, yeah, it takes a little bit of time to do that. And then, of course, I had to verify I had the right username, password, and all that kind of stuff. But I did, so that's good. So it actually wound up being relatively quick. So that's the process, folks. And it's certainly something that you want to put on your to-do list. Unless you like the notion of having to someday prove that you're you to the IRS and then have to wait 2 years before it gets resolved. You probably don't want to do that. The reality is chances are your Social Security date of birth is already probably floating around out there on the dark web. So make sure that you do this. Get your IP PIN courtesy of the IRS. Because then that does shut down any chance of becoming a victim of tax ID, identity theft on your tax return. We're going to take a break and continue here on Dollars and Cents after these messages here. This is Joel Garris of Nelson Financial Planning.